Hello, I'm Paul Wells. I promise you the title to this video will make sense if you watch the video all the way through to the end. So I have a story for you today. The story starts in 2016. In 2016, I realized that I'd reached a point in my life where my marriage of 22 years had effectively come to an end. And so I decided what I would do is update my CV, publish it, and whichever company, wherever they were located, whoever responded first, I would pack up my stuff, go and live there and work that contract. So a roll of the dice, if you like. Well, a couple of weeks later, a company in West London, a company that make kits for developing embedded systems. Now, embedded systems are computers without screens and without keyboards that are put inside washing machines, photocopiers, car engine management systems, whatever. That company said, yes, come and work for us. So I put the phone down, I walked around the house, I looked at the furniture, the ornaments, and I thought, you know what? I don't want any of this. I want to travel light. I don't need this stuff. Plus, it's a contract. You never know how long the contract's going to last. So I just want a few possessions. So I thought, okay, fine. I'm going to take my clothes, my computer, my desk, and my piano. And then I had a rethink and I thought, do I really need my piano? I mean, it's quite a big, bulky thing. My daughter will want to carry on learning to play the piano. And plus, I'm smashing the thing to bits. I mean, this was a Roland RD 700 SX. I don't know if Roland have improved this weakness, but the little plastic frames inside them, they break very easily. And I, being quite heavy-handed, broke this thing. I even had a stack of spare parts for it and everything. So every couple of months, I had to have the thing to bits. I thought, fine, leave it here. So I said goodbye to the children, dropped my bits in the car, set off on the 100-mile journey on a very dark evening. And so that was that. And it took me a couple of weeks to settle into the new contract. And after a bit, I thought, I would like a piano. I'd like a piano of some description. I don't want a big one, but I would like something. And I looked around, and yes, you can buy these little things called controller keyboards. They're 5 octaves. They don't have a power supply. They don't have a sound generator. You just plug it into your computer, and then you use GarageBand or whatever to generate some sound. So, fine, I got myself one of them. Then I thought, right, I'd really like to resume giving piano lessons to my daughter. I had been giving her a general school lesson anyway, looking at books and things, so it was the logical next step to start giving her piano lessons. She had her phone with its camera, front-facing camera. I had my phone with its front-facing camera. So we rigged up our phones so that I could see her keyboard on my screen, she could see my keyboard on her screen. But I spent most of the lesson with my neck turned round like this, looking at her keyboard. And what was even worse was every time I spotted a mistake in her playing, I would have to say, okay, stop, now look at this, I'm going to show you. She would then turn her head round, watch me play something, and then she'd have to look back at her piano, and by which time she was completely disoriented. So I thought, okay, fine, there's got to be a better way of doing this. Let's just quickly scroll back 40 years. 40 years ago, I was at a college in Nottingham called, it was actually Newark in Nottinghamshire, on a course called Musical Instrument Electronics. And it was the first time they'd run this course, and I learned all about this wonderful protocol that the industry had agreed upon called Musical Instrument Digital Interface, or MIDI. And this was a very simple protocol, 3 bytes. 3 bytes, would you believe? Not 3 kilobytes, 3 bytes for each event. The first byte being the type of event, such as note on. The second byte being which note. And the third byte being how fast, the velocity, how hard you'd hit the key. So I knew what was coming out of my digital piano, and I thought, well, this is now 2016. Surely there's some way of just sending that over the internet. I thought, right, let's have a look on Amazon. There's bound to be something on Amazon that can do this. I can just buy something, plug it in, buy one for my daughter, she'll plug it in, and bang, we'll have much better internet piano lessons. So I had a look and couldn't find anything. I thought, maybe I've just got the wrong search terms. Maybe I'm just looking in the wrong place. Had a look on Google. No, nothing. I thought, that's a shame. That really is a shame. And then I had a second but the second wasn't the same as the first The second was I wonder if I could build something. I thought, okay, I'll have a word with the guys in the office. I mean, I've got access to 200 embedded software engineers. Somebody's going to know what's the best thing to suggest. So it came out, yes, what you need, Paul, is a Raspberry Pi. You need a couple of Raspberry Pis. Raspberry Pis, they're an off-the-shelf computer, little tiny computer about that big. They've got USB ports on them. They've got Wi-Fi built into them. If you write a piece of software and install it on one of these, it'll connect to the piano, it'll connect to the internet, and you'll join your pianos together. So, yes, that's what I did. And it took a few weeks, but I got it working. I thought, well, this is great. I can play the Roland piano from 100 miles away. But then I thought, well, this hasn't really solved the main problem, though. The main problem I'm having is, I mean, I recall having piano lessons as a child, and typically what would happen was the teacher would be sat next to me, and I would play, and then the teacher would stop me, and then the teacher would have a pencil or something and point into the keyboard and say, make a correction here or whatever. And this is what I realised I needed. I needed to be able to point into my daughter's piano. And I thought, well, if instead of just playing the note at the other end, if the Raspberry Pi could, I don't know, we had a strip of lights or something like that, one light for each key, then that key that I played at my end could put a light on at her end, and then I could point into her piano. And then she wouldn't have to take her eyes off the keyboard. She could concentrate on what she's doing. It wouldn't be such an interruption to look away and look at the screen on her phone. Well, I investigated this. I learned that there are these things called neopixels. They come on a roll. You can just cut the roll to size, a little row of lights, and you can supposedly control them with a Raspberry Pi, but that didn't work out. I went back to the guys in the office and said, hey, I'm having a problem here. What would you do about this? They said, well, you need an Arduino. An Arduino being an equivalent, loosely equivalent sort of thing to a Raspberry Pi. Works in a different way, actually, but same principle. Here's a little tiny off-the-shelf computer. You can write some software for it, and it'll do any one of a whole host of things that you might want it to do. Controlling a strip of neopixels being one of those things. So, a bit more jigging around, got that working, got it connected to the Raspberry Pi. I couldn't get a strip of lights that had the lights the same distance apart as the keys on a keyboard, but I thought, okay, I can worry about solving that problem later. So that's what I got to. That took me months, to be honest, to get it working, but it was working. It was just about usable. And then one evening I was very, very tired. I'd been thinking about USB, protocols, the internet, software, and I looked down at this thing, and I looked at what shape it was, and I thought, this thing looks like a snake. I mean, the strip of lights are like the body of a snake. The Raspberry Pi and the Arduino are bulbs, they're a bit like the head of a snake. But more critically, there are two USB cables coming out of it. One of the USB cables goes to the power supply, and the other USB cable goes to the piano. That's exactly like the split tongue of a snake. And that was the point at which this thing became known as a snake. It's known as a snake to this day. That's the end of chapter 1 of the story. My goodness me, there is a heck of a lot more to this story, and I've been hanging on to it for quite a long time now, so I'm very eager to tell the rest of it to you. So I'll see you in part 2. Thank you very much for listening.